Madrid office on Paseo de la Castellana. Elena Martinez sat at the signing table, dressed in an elegant red dress, back straight despite everything. Across from her was Diego, her husband, who was leaving her after 3 years of marriage. Beside him, her in-laws. Mrs. Carmen with her pearl necklace and a sneer of contempt, Mr. Raphael in his $4,000 suit. They were signing the divorce papers when the mother-in-law uttered those poisonous words that would change everything. Finally, my son is free of her, she said with satisfaction. A girl with no family, no money, whom they had taken in out of charity. She'll go back to the nothing she came from. Elena said nothing, signed the documents with a steady hand, smiled politely, grabbed her purse. Then, as she walked out, her phone rang. A formal voice on the other end informed her that her father wanted to meet her. He had landed that morning from New York. It was time she learned the truth about her family and Martinez Industries. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, then turned to her in-laws, who looked at her smugly and smiled. They knew nothing. They had no idea who she really was. Not yet. Elena Martinez was 28 years old and had a secret she'd kept in her heart her whole life. No one knew, not even Diego, the man she'd married 3 years earlier in a simple wedding at a small church in La Latina, a wedding her in-laws had called unsuitable for the Ruiz family. The Ruizes were textile merchants in Madrid, with 3 stores in prime locations and an apartment overlooking Plaza Mayor. They weren't billionaires, but they acted like it. Especially Mrs. Carmen, who wore pearls even to the grocery store and looked down on everyone. So Elena had met Diego at university studying law at Complutense. She was brilliant, top of her class on scholarship. He was average, the son of a well-off family who expected everything without effort. They fell in love, or so Elena thought. Diego was kind, charming, brought her flowers. He said he didn't care that she was an orphan raised in foster care with no family. He was lying. It didn't bother him, but it bothered his parents. The marriage started well. Elena worked as a lawyer at a mid-tier firm. Diego managed one of the family stores. They lived in a small but cozy apartment in Lavapiés. They weren't rich, but they were happy, or so Elena thought. Then the in-laws began. First subtle comments about overcooked roasts, clothes not elegant enough, grandchildren taking too long to arrive. Then the comments turned to attacks. A girl with no family couldn't understand the importance of blood ties. She was lucky Diego had accepted her with her past. Who knows what kind of genes she had, raised who knows where. Elena endured it. She endured because she loved Diego. She endured because she thought love could conquer all. She endured because deep down, a part of her believed they might be right, that she was lucky, that she didn't deserve more. Then, months ago, everything changed. Diego came home one afternoon, avoided her gaze, and said the words that break marriages. It wasn't working. His mother was right. His mother was right. They were too different. She wasn't right for his family. Elena asked if there was someone else. Diego hesitated too long before denying it, but he was lying. She knew. 6 months of divorce proceedings, lawyers, documents, asset division. Elena wanted nothing from them. She just wanted to be done. She just wanted to be free from the family that had made her feel inadequate for 3 years. And now here she was, in the notary office on Paseo de la Castellana, surrounded by people who despised her. The notary read the documents in a monotone voice. Diego signed without looking at her. His father Raphael scrutinized every page as if Elena might cheat them. And his mother Carmen watched with that satisfied smile, that victorious smirk. When it came to the asset division, Mrs. Carmen couldn't hold back. She explained with gleeful satisfaction that Elena had no right to anything, as she hadn't contributed significantly financially. The apartment was in Diego's name. The savings were his. Elena was leaving with what she'd brought into the family. Nothing. The notary confirmed that per the prenup signed 3 years ago, Elena waived any financial claims. It had seemed romantic at the time. Now she saw it as a trap. Elena simply said it was fine. She wanted nothing. Mrs. Carmen laughed. An ugly sound. Finally, a bit of dignity, she remarked, then added venomously, what dignity could someone have who didn't even know who her real parents were? Elena felt rage rise but suppressed it. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. She took the pen, signed the documents one by one, and her signature was steady, elegant. 3 years of humiliation ended with that signature. She stood, grabbed her vintage Hermes purse found at a flea market, and turned to leave. That's when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Private number. Normally she wouldn't answer, but something told her to. The voice on the other end was male, formal, with a slight American accent. He introduced himself as James Crawford, personal assistant to her father. Mr. Andro Martinez had landed in Madrid that morning from New York. He wanted to meet her. It was time she learned the truth about her family and Martinez Industries. Elena felt the floor shake. Alejandro Martinez, her father, the man she'd never known, who abandoned her at birth, whose name she discovered only a year ago through private investigators. The man who had never tried to contact her until now. She turned slowly to the Ruizes. They all looked at her curiously. The notary politely asked if everything was okay. Elena smiled. Real smile, maybe the first in 6 months. Yes, she said, everything's perfect. Perfect, actually. Alejandro Martinez lived in New York, but when he came to Madrid, he did it in style. Presidential suite at the Ritz Hotel, view over the whole city. Elena was escorted there in a black Mercedes with a chauffeur. During the drive, James Crawford explained who her father was. Alejandro Martinez, founder of Martinez Industries, a financial empire in tech, real estate, and energy. Net worth, $3 billion. He left Spain 30 years ago with a suitcase and a dream. Built it all from nothing. Elena listened in silence, heart pounding. James continued, 29 years ago, Alejandro had a relationship with Laura Blanco. She got pregnant. Alejandro, still poor, proposed marriage. She refused. She didn't want to raise a child in poverty. Laura vanished, changed cities, cut contact. Alejandro searched for years, private investigators, everything he had. Nothing. Laura gave birth to Elena in Valencia. She died a few months later. The girl went into foster care. Alejandro never knew. Documents lost in bureaucracy. Only a year ago, when Elena started searching for her biological parents, Alejandro's name came up. The investigator found the birth certificate, pieced together the story, and contacted Alejandro in New York. Alejandro cried when he learned he had a daughter, James said, moved. A daughter in Madrid, a lawyer, married. He'd never met her. He wanted to contact her right away, but his lawyers advised caution. She was married, had a life. Maybe she didn't want to be bothered. Maybe she'd hate him. Alejandro decided to wait, watch from afar. But when he learned of the divorce and the final date, he knew it was time. His daughter needed to know she wasn't alone. Elena listened with silent tears, years of loneliness, feeling abandoned, and now discovered her father had searched for her, never stopped. They arrived at the hotel, went up to the top floor. James knocked, announced his daughter was there. Elena entered a huge living room with floor-to-ceiling windows over golden Madrid, and there, by the window, stood a man about 55, gray hair, impeccable suit, eyes exactly like hers, dark green, intense. Alejandro looked at his daughter for the first time since her birth and broke down. Tears fell as he crossed the room and took Elena in his arms. He whispered she was his girl, his beautiful girl. It hurt so much not to have been there. Elena clung to him and cried. She cried for all the lost years, the birthdays without family, all the times she'd felt alone. She cried and finally felt at home. 2 weeks later, Elena sat in her father's office on the 40th floor of a Castellana building. Alessandro had decided to stay in Madrid. He'd opened a Spanish branch of Martinez Industries and wanted Elena to be part of it. He explained everything he'd built was hers. She was his daughter, his only heir. Elena was stunned. 2 weeks ago, she'd signed a divorce, leaving her with nothing. Now she was heir to $3 billion. Elena had to know something. The Ruizes had humiliated her for 3 years, made her feel inadequate. And he knew all about them, right? Alejandro smiled, a wolfish smile. His investigators had a full report. Rafael Ruiz owned 3 stores, net worth about euros 2 million, but deep in debt. The main store on Gran Via had a heavy mortgage, 6 months behind. The bank was about to foreclose. Alejandro had bought that debt the day before. Now the Ruizes owed him. It wasn't revenge, he explained. It was justice. They'd treated his daughter like trash, thought she had no one. They were wrong. She had him now, and he protected what was his. The choice was Elena's. Handle it professionally or show the Ruizes who they'd humiliated. Not for revenge, but because they deserved to know their judgment was wrong. Elena thought of 3 years of humiliations, Sunday lunches, poisonous comments, the final notary insult, how small and unworthy they'd made her feel. She wanted them to know, not to hurt them, but so they'd learn money doesn't define a person's worth. She wanted them to get that lesson. Alejandro nodded. 2 days later, there was a charity gala at the Palace Hotel. All of good Madrid would be there, including the Ruizes. He'd made a major donation. They'd be guests of honor. Elena would come with him. As Elena Martinez, daughter of Alejandro Martinez, vice president of Martinez Industries Spain, Elena smiled. For the first time in 3 years, she felt powerful, not because of the money, but because she finally knew who she was. She finally had a family. She was finally not alone. At the charity dinner night, Elena wore a fiery red Balenciaga gown her father insisted on buying her. Hair down, perfect makeup, a vintage Cartier on her wrist that had belonged to her paternal grandmother. They arrived at the palace in a Bentley, red carpet, photographers, cameras. Alejandro was known in finance circles. His arrival with a stunning young woman sparked immediate interest. Journalists shouted questions. Alejandro proudly introduced his daughter, Elena Martinez, newly joined to the family business. They entered the magnificent hall, and at table 7 sat the Ruizes, all three. Raphael in his expensive but not expensive enough suit, Carmen with pearls that suddenly looked small, Diego with a blonde new girlfriend. Alejandro led Elena to table 1, the head table. As they walked, heads turned. Who was that woman with Alejandro Martinez? Carmen recognized her first. She elbowed her husband. It was Elena. What was she doing there? Raphael thought maybe she worked at the hotel, but then Elena turned, looked straight at them, and smiled. Carmen went pale. Elena was at the head table with Alejandro Martinez. The dinner began. Alejandro introduced Elena to other guests as his daughter, future VP of the Spanish division. At table 7, the Ruizes were in turmoil. How was it possible? Elena, daughter of a billionaire. Diego stared like she'd risen from the grave. After the second course, speeches began. The foundation president called Alejandro Martinez, who donated euros 500,000. Alejandro took the stage, spoke of education's value, second chances. Then he said the donation was in honor of his daughter Elena, found after 29 years. Elena grew up in foster care, became a brilliant lawyer on her own. She's proof a person's worth isn't determined by birth circumstances, but by character. I'm proud of her every day. The room erupted in applause. Elena took the stage. Her father hugged her. Cameras flashed. Elena looked straight at table 7, saw Carmen pale, Raphael stunned, Diego devastated. She spoke into the mic, thanking her father. To everyone who'd grown up feeling not good enough, your worth isn't determined by who loves you, it's by who you are. And you are enough. More applause. Elena returned to her table, head high. She hadn't named the Ruizes. She didn't need to. The message was clear. The next day, Rafael Ruiz received a summons, a meeting at Martinez Industries offices to discuss urgent financial matters. He arrived nervous, forehead sweaty despite it being October. His wife Carmen insisted on coming. They wanted answers. They were shown into an elegant conference room, dark wood, view over Plaza de Colón, and there at the head of the table sat Elena with Alejandro beside her and a team of lawyers. Elena wore a gray business suit, hair up, slim glasses. Dioses. She looked every inch the professional she'd always been, but they'd never really seen. Elena thanked them for coming and got straight to the point. Martinez Industries had recently acquired their bank debt on the Gran Via store, the full amount including interest and late penalties. Thoreau's $300,000 overdue 6 months. Raphael paled, asking if they'd bought his debt. Elena confirmed her father technically had, but she managed that division. They had options: proceed with immediate foreclosure, their legal right, or restructure the debt with reasonable terms for gradual repayment. Carmen found her voice, though trembling. Why would you do this? Elena finished calmly, after spending 3 years humiliating your daughter-in-law. After making her feel like trash, lucky only because your son accepted her, after telling her on divorce day she was going back to the nothing she came from, heavy silence. Carmen looked down, hands shaking. Raphael looked like his world had crumbled. Elena continued. She could seek revenge, enjoy their bankruptcy, watch them lose everything, but she wouldn't. Why? Because her father taught her something. True power isn't humiliating others. It's being better than them. They judged her for lacking family, her past. But she wouldn't judge them for their cruelty. She'd give them what they never gave her, a chance. Alejandro explained the restructuring, fair interest rate, manageable monthly payments. If they stuck to it, debt-free in 5 years, their store safe. Elena added one condition. Go to everyone they'd told she was lucky to be in their family and tell the truth, that she wasn't lucky. She was kind, patient, strong despite their contempt. No need to apologize to her. They wouldn't mean it anyway. Just tell the truth. That was her condition. Raphael nodded slowly, promising they would. They signed with trembling hands. As they stood to leave, at the door Carmen turned, voice breaking. Elena, I'm sorry, truly, I didn't know. Elena interrupted gently. It shouldn't matter. Even if I'd really been poor, really without family, really nobody by your standards, it wouldn't justify how you treated me. Everyone deserves respect. Carmen nodded, tears streaming. You're right, we were awful, but she couldn't finish. She left with her husband, both smaller than when they'd entered. When they were gone, Alejandro put a hand on his daughter's shoulder. You were magnificent, strong but fair. I'm proud of you. Elena smiled wearily. She didn't feel victorious, just sad for them. They'd wasted 3 years hating her for the wrong reasons, now living knowing they were wrong. Alejandro said it was the hardest lesson, but necessary. 3 months later, Elena Martinez sat in her new office on the 30th floor of a Castellana building, vice president of Martinez Industries Spain. She'd left her old firm gracefully, recommending an excellent colleague to replace her. Now she managed legal and investments for her father's company, a stimulating job that kept her 12 hours a day, but she was happy. For the first time, she felt in the right place, not because of money, but purpose. Ethical investments, community projects, scholarships for foster kids. She was making a difference. Her bond with Alejandro grew daily, dinners, late-night talks, reclaiming lost decades. He shared his New York life, struggles building the company, loneliness without family. She shared her foster childhood, kind homes and not so kind, how she'd learned strength because she had no choice. One night, Alejandro said she was like him, a survivor, fighter, not letting the world define her. As for Diego, Elena ran into him by chance a week earlier. He was at his usual bar in Malasonia, sitting alone. He saw her enter, stood nervously, asked if they could talk a minute. They sat at a corner table. Diego looked different, thinner, tired. Eyes once bright, now dull. He just wanted to say he was sorry for not being strong enough to defend her from his mother, for leaving her, for making her feel not enough when the truth was he wasn't enough for her. Never had been. Never had been. Elena asked why now. Diego said honestly because he'd lost her and only now realized what he truly lost. Not the money, not the name, but her. The kindest, strongest, most genuine person he'd known. He'd been too cowardly to see it. Then Elena felt something soften in her heart. Not love, that was dead, but maybe forgiveness. She wished him the best. Hoped he'd find courage to live his life, not his parents'. Hoped he'd be happy. She stood to go. Diego stopped her. Any chance? Elena said gently but firmly no. That story was over, but he could write a new one for himself. He still had time. She left the bar, heart light. That chapter fully closed. Her phone rang, James saying someone was there to see her. No appointment, but insistent. A social worker from her childhood. Elena returned to the office intrigued. In the waiting area sat a woman about 60, gray hair, kind smile. Elena recognized her instantly. Mrs. Rodriguez. They hugged. The woman had read about her in the papers. Her found family. So happy for her. They sat, had coffee, talked of the past. Mrs. Rodriguez said there was something Elena needed to know about why her mother left her in the system. She'd found her diaries years ago. They were to be thrown out. She'd kept them hoping to find her someday. She pulled out a small, worn notebook. Her mother hadn't abandoned her because she didn't love her. She loved her desperately, but was sick. And she knew she was dying and thought Elena deserved better than poverty and illness. Hardest decision of her life. Elena took the diary with trembling hands, opened it. Feminine, delicate handwriting. One page started, "To my little Elena, I hope someday you understand. I'm giving you up because I love you, not because I don't want you. You deserve a family that can care for you like I can't. You deserve a life. Forgive me." Tears fell on the yellowed pages. Elena cried for the mother she never knew. Impossible choices. Love shown the only way possible. Mrs. Rodriguez said softly, "Your mother loved you. Both loved you, your mother and father. Circumstances separated them, but you were never, never unwanted." That night, Elena showed the diary to her father. Alejandro read it with tears streaming, whispering Laura's name. Poor Laura. If only I'd known, if only I'd found her. Elena took his hand. "We're here now together like we should be." Alejandro looked at her with eyes full of love. He wanted to create a foundation, the Laura Blanco Foundation, to help single mothers in need provide support, ensure no child grew up without family when someone loved them. Elena smiled through tears. Perfect. 1 year later, Elena Martinez was on stage at the first annual Laura Blanco Foundation Gala. The event raised $2 million to help hundreds of families. Beside her, her father, proud and happy. Elena spoke into the mic, dedicating the foundation to her mother, who made the hardest choice out of love. To every parent who'd fought, every child who'd felt alone, every person who'd thought they weren't enough. "You're enough, more than enough." The audience stood applauding. In the crowd, familiar faces, colleagues, friends, and at the back, the Ruizes. All three had come, made a modest but sincere donation. When their eyes met, Carmen gave a small nod. Respect, acknowledgement. Not friendship, maybe never that, but understanding. Elena nodded back, then turned to her father, who looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world, because to him she was. She said softly it was time to go home. Alejandro smiled. They went home, and for the first time in her life, Elena Martinez truly had won. Like if you believe a person's true worth isn't measured by family or money. Comment if you think kindness and strength overcome any judgment. Share this story to remind that those who underestimate you often don't know your real story. Subscribe for more tales proving you're never truly alone, even when you feel abandoned. Sometimes people judge us by what they see on the surface. They don't know our struggles, scars, the strength it took just to get here, Elena seemed like an ordinary girl. No family, no power, but she carried a dignity no humiliation could break. And when the truth emerged, her father's billions didn't matter. What mattered? She'd always been enough, even when no one saw it, even when she doubted herself. She'd always been